Good morning, my brothers and sisters. On this, the next GMG VGBCSC, or the Good Morning Guys Video Game Book Club Spoilercast of the year for the 2018 GOAT, God of War. Thank you so much for joining us on this fine morning, afternoon, evening, or night as we thunder our way through the story, rage in good and bad ways about the gameplay, collectibles, and enemies, especially those pesky Valkyries that froze us out from progressing towards the Platinum Trophy at times, amidst, of course, our usual game of life discussions, along with the other games we love to watch and play. I am one of your four hosts, the Brazilian Viking and transition demigod, Lucas Ham Swisher. Also with me, the other member of the usual GMG quadfecta, the judge, the jury, and the executioner of the Nine Realms, Odin's boy, Patrick Novacell.
So that means I'm Thor? Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I almost called you Patrick Novasaur, but I thought that sounded
Novasaur? Am I a dinosaur?
Like a dinosaur, exactly.
A new dinosaur has been unearthed over in Egypt, the new Novasaur.
All right. But wait, Patrick and I are not alone, as we have not one, but two guests with us today. First, our Iwanese streamer and seer, who may have the wisdom of Mimir, but thankfully is not just a pretty face or a disembodied head. The Baconator himself, Tim Paullin.
Shut up, Ed.
Thank you for that, Tim. And finally, last but certainly not least, our resident Canadian dwarf, the Grandpa Dribbler himself, and the true God of War with every single platinum from every game in the series, Kris "The Rock" Kerwin.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Kris. Good to have you here, bud. All right, guys. Well, welcome to the show. We are excited to have you, Tim and Kris, for us to take some time to spoil the bejangles out of God of War, talk about its glory, why it's the GOAT, all good things. But of course, we can be honest and share some of our maybe negative thoughts or reviews or those kind of things. So to start us out, as always, we like to do a spoiler-free review and rating, kind of sharing just some general thoughts, some of the highlights without giving away any of the spoilery stuff. And we're going to start with Patrick. We're going to do like a GMG sandwich where Patrick and I are going to start and end it. And then Tim and Kris, you guys will go in the middle. And we'll just let you do paper, rock, scissors to see who goes after Patrick.
You guys are in the middle of the GMG sandwich. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're on the edge of the bed and you guys are in the middle. Sorry.
I mean, it makes sense. Tim's got all that
peanut
bacon.
butter and who's the jam?
Kris, we're not getting paid enough for this.
You are definitely not getting paid enough.
Speaking of peanut butter, God of War. I'm not a transition ninja.
Okay, I was like, wait, I really want to hear the connection about that.
You didn't see that Easter egg about peanut butter? No. Yeah, this game was great. I loved the story. I'm a story guy, and this really had a story throughout. Like the older God of War games were basically just, button mashers going after enemy, and there was a little bit of a story. But this one was more fleshed out. There was that motion capture throughout the entire game. There were just small little collectibles and things like that kind of expanded the story. And this was like in a whole different kind of universe, with it being in the Greek. It was the Greek gods in the first one, and then we're in the Norse mythology in this one. And it was a nice change. I really like that. I love the over the shoulder third person kind of games. That's my jam. And when they went from the traditional button masher to this, and more of like an Uncharted kind of feel, a Tomb Raider kind of feel with the over the shoulder, and more on the story than the gameplay. Even though the gameplay for this was really awesome. The RPG mechanics and being able to upgrade your armor and your skills and the skill trees, those were missing in the previous games. The story was all great throughout. The ending was fantastic. Yeah, I absolutely love this game. I have nothing really bad about this game. It was one of my greatest games of all time when we did our top 100 list.
Yep.
Was this the game that was number 1 or was it number 2?
I think it was number 2, if not 3. I don't
Yeah.
think it definitely wasn't number 1. That was super. No, it was I think it was number 3 because Rocket League was number 2. And
Okay,
then Super
yeah.
Mario Brothers 3 was number 1.
So the number 3 rated game all time by the GMG guys. So that's all you really need to know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, loved it.
Nice. All right. Did you guys do paper, rock, scissors? Who's going next?
Chris lost. He's going first.
All right.
All right.
It's true. All right. So before coming to that game, I realized I had 5 of the platinums, and I couldn't go into it without getting the other one, which was a bit of a chore 5 years later or 7 years later for that one. And I decided to squeeze it in between 2 of the GMG GBC games.
There you
And it was it was a bit of a stress at one point because it took me a chunk of time and I wasn't sure. It took me longer than I expected to beat God of War 2018, which is a great thing. Basically, it's completely different, as you said, to the previous 6 games. The other ones were button mashers. Kratos was just angry all the time. It felt like they pressed reset way too many times. For the story, the story was getting really ridiculous. You end one of the games really strong, and then something happens and you lose all your powers again, and you start from scratch and you start getting stronger and stronger. So I feel like this game, they did it differently. Instead of making you stronger, it's all about the gear. So basically, if you remove the gear, you're at the same strength as the beginning of the game. And I find that this little attention to detail and it made much more sense, and it was much appreciated. It was really cool. The combat, I have to say, I did like the combat from the previous games in terms of learning combos, when to dodge and everything. I was a big fan of the previous games. So I really enjoy the combat from the 2018, but it's not, it's in line with what I would expect for 5 years later with all the advancements developers have made. So it was amazing combat, but I didn't really expect any less. That's not what surprised me. It's really the story, which was 100 times better than all of the previous games. The other ones, you know, the story was laughable. It took itself seriously. I'm sure the developers were very tongue-in-cheek about it, but it didn't show in the game. It was very serious and ridiculous at the same time.
Calliope.
Yeah, so you know, the story is really what makes this game shine. In terms of personal taste, that's really personal, but I found that the main story was a bit too puzzle heavy and not enough combat for my taste. I love all the story bits. I couldn't get enough of that. I guess I do play a bit tired sometimes. So if I get lost and I need to figure out what I need to do, instead of just pushing the story or beating enemies up, those are not my favorite parts. And for the amount of combat was a bit low to my taste for the main story. You know, we'll talk about end game content later, but for the main story was a bit low on combat. I popped the 1,000 enemies killed trophy after 30 hours, which was really surprising to me compared to other games where you'd pop that in 10 minutes, you know.
Right. Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's really funny at times. They have characters in there that make it really funny. At the same time, you have a very likable story, but it's funny, really funny bits too. Finally, Kratos' actor's name is also Christopher, so that's a plus
Oh, there you go.
for me.
Oh,
Yeah.
you go after those. Okay.
And so yeah, 63 hours total. So I give it 9 Valkyries out of 10.
All right.
Nice.
Nice.
Oh, I
Patrick,
didn't
you
give a ranking for me.
Give a number.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. 10.
10?
10 out of 10. 100 out of 100. 1,000 out of 1,000.
1,000 what?
Thousands.
1,000 out of 1,000 thousands?
Yes.
Wow. That is quite the endorsement.
Right.
Don't need
All right,
it.
Timmy Paullin.
All
Share
right.
your spoiler-free thoughts with us, friend.
Spoiler-free thoughts. Do you remember when they announced this game and they basically did like with the way they're announcing Ragnarok or whatever, it's going to be just the Omega symbol. And I was actually talking to a friend of mine when it came out, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting that game. I'm like, I played 3 because I started with 3. I didn't play the earlier ones first.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, I'm not
Really?
getting that game. And then they played a trailer. I'm like, and I'm getting that game. I'm getting that.
Beautiful
Yeah.
trailer.
Gorgeous. And I echo what Pat and Kris said, but the amazing part was this game never once had a loading screen. Not once. They hid everything behind elevators and,
cracks in the wall.
Cracks in the wall.
When you change realms or those little portals.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to run. I realized at one point that those are hiding loading screens because you can stand in place and it'll appear. You're not really walking to the area you need to go.
I remember there was a time where I'm like running around and I'm like, is this ever going to pop? Like, what is happening?
Where is it?
Come on, PS4, let's load.
Let's go jump off this cliff.
Oh, yeah. Did that a few times.
This game's not loading. Might as well just die.
Yeah. Well, what's this over here? You have to go look.
Of course.
Yeah, this game is gorgeous. And like I said, I'd only played 3 before this one. So I was coming from, it's a nice side scroller. It's pretty linear. And this is linear to a point. Like when you're in certain areas, it's linear, but there is still multiple ways you can go, and then you turn around and go back the other way.
Right.
It's the Uncharted thing where, like, if you're looking for collectibles, if it's trying to force you this way, you go the other way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just turn around and go, nah, there's something over there. But
gotta go see what it is.
It's the worst feeling when you do that and you actually are going the right way and it has a cutscene. You're like, dang it.
Yeah.
You chose unwisely.
This game is incredible. It's a travesty that it's not -- on the GMG list.
Yep. We blame Ronnie.
Probably someone didn't play it, right?
Yeah, Ronnie
That's
doesn't.
correct.
Yeah, Ronnie didn't play it and it was still number 3.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, you should let us vote.
And Tim, you talked about the graphics, and I completely forgot to mention it. I don't know, Pat, if you talked about how it looks, but oh my, this is really, really a stunning game. And with the PS5 update in 4K, it was, I would pause the game and go look close, and it looks so good. Like, what a beautiful game.
Yeah, and it's crazy because the PS4 looks amazing in and of itself.
It looks amazing on the PS4.
Yeah, and the PS5, it's just improves the crispness and the clearness, and it's just like you can zoom in on a lot of things, and it's not going to degrade the image, and it's just like both systems, regardless of what you're playing it on, it needs to be played.
Yes, it's photo mode heaven.
Sure is.
I mean, and I don't take photos, but I'm just like, let's spin this around. Look at, oh my goodness.
Right.
I mean, it's just drop dead gorgeous. But
Yeah,
I
it really
remember
is.
starting it, and the first, spoiler, it's not a spoiler. You throw the axe for the first time and it comes back.
Oof.
Oh,
Yeah, that sound. That sound is
Yeah, that
amazing
feeling.
too. Yeah.
Yep. Everything about it. So,
Yeah.
Tim, you got what kind of rating would you give this game?
The first playthrough would have been a 9. After our replay, it's a 10.
Nice.
Out
Came
of
back and
2000. Oh, this is
Oh,
whoa,
10 out of
what?
2000. Oh no.
This is not good.
No, that's not good.
10 out of 10, of course. I got 5.
All right. It's okay.
10,
Patrick
10
confused
bacon
you.
strips.
Yeah.
Mhm.
10 bacon strips out of 10 bacon
Yeah.
strips. Well, that's kind of a dangerous rating system because then you're going to eat it. And then it's going to be 0 out of 10 bacon strips because you ate all the bacon. All right. So for me, I'm just going to go ahead and give my rating 10 out of 10 Lurking Ravens of Odin. Like it's a wondrous game. Like I love this game. I too, like, I think all of you, Patrick, I can't remember if you said, did you played the old games, right? The PS2 or the PS3?
Yeah, I played 1, 2, 3.
games.
I didn't. The only game I had not played was Ascension.
Yeah, and that's the one that Kris, I don't know if you had said it was actually Ascension, Kris, but just for those who are listening, that's the game you played right before you played
Yeah.
God of War 2018, which I can't imagine the contrast of playing Ascension.
I dusted off my PS3 to play.
Oh
it.
yeah, you had to blow
Yeah,
that
and
blow that baby like a Nintendo cartridge.
that controller got me dying way too much, and I ended up playing with the PS5 controller, the DualSense on the PS3.
Oh.
It doesn't work on the
Really?
PS4,
Oh
but it
no
works on the
way!
PS3.
What?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense that it doesn't play on a
It's 'cause-
PS4, but it plays on
Probably
the PS3.
because they blocked it with purpose on the PS4, right?
Gosh,
But
Sony sometimes.
they couldn't back engineer that to block it on PS3. I guess it needed to be wired, but it controlled much better,
Oh,
and
nice.
it helped me because
That's a
it's
good
it's a hard
pro
game,
tip.
Ascension. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm about halfway through Ascension. I have gone back and played 1, 2, 3. Well, I played 3 twice, but I played 1 and 2, and I'm halfway through Ascension. I didn't get
Yeah.
all the way done.
I also played 3 twice because I played it on PS3 and I played it on PS4. But
Yep.
yeah, I discovered when I rediscovered PlayStation for, I guess, the second time. Third time's a charm with PS3 is when I discovered PlayStation when I moved to Brazil 2013. But when I rediscovered PlayStation the second time with PlayStation 2, I had taken breaks for whatever reason between each iteration of PlayStation. But when I played God of War, I was like, what is this game? And easily this became like a guilty pleasure game for me, like through God of War 1, God of War 2, and God of War 3. It was definitely not something someone would say, you're a pastor and you play that game? It's like awkward conversations when you see some of the things that happen in the old ones. And for me, kind of a spoiler-free thing is I appreciate the shift in focus of this God of War. They took out the fluff. I think they took out the gratuitous violence, which was very much a part of the original. I mean, there's still like very violent, visceral moments in the game, but it's done so much, I don't know, more tastefully, artistically, not gratuitously like it was in the old ones. And, some of the other stuff that, was not particularly something I wanted to really partake in, but was a part of the old games, which they totally took out the sexual stuff. So I was like, thank you guys. You focused on the right part of the story. Just get rid of this other stuff that was just like male macho whatever issues that we just don't need to deal with. So
I once had my sister-in-law sleeping over, and then the next day my wife asked me, what were you watching? Like, my sister was here, we could hear everything.
Oh my gosh.
It was the game.
It was the game, that's all.
What were you playing?
Yeah, a quick time event.
Yeah.
Yes.
The worst part of those scenes was if you messed it up and then you had to do it again and again. You're like, oh, I know there's a trophy attached to this. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I gotta get this
Just cover your
out of the
eyes.
way.
Tell me what button to press.
Awkward.
Tell me what button to
Yeah.
press.
Tell me what to do and you win. All right. Yeah. So this new one was just the total shift in the depth of Kratos in terms of gameplay. I actually, as much as I enjoyed the button mashing of the old ones, I liked the subtlety of Kratos's gameplay in this one because it felt like he was maturing. It felt like he was maturing as a character, which he was in the story. I appreciate the depth of his character, and then the depth of the fighting, like switching between. And I know you had the switching between weapons in the old one with the like powers you would get as you defeated bosses, like almost like the Mega Man kind of feel to it in the originals. But I appreciate in this one that it was just pretty much maximizing the powers of the two weapons that you had without giving any spoilers. Whatever those two weapons are, I won't say. But yeah, it's just such a good game story. I can't really add much else to what you guys said because you guys covered most of it. So with that, I think we're just going to jump right into it. We did talk about the original trilogy that we all played it. For those that didn't play it, pretty much the old games were like Devil May Cry mixed with The Witcher, and you play this guy Kratos, who's a Spartan warrior. He swears his life to the god of war Ares, and then gets tricked into killing his family. And then he returns in kind and kills Ares. He then becomes the god of war, and then decide he wants to destroy all the gods of Greece. And so he opens Pandora's box. Well, that actually happened in the first one. I'm getting mixed up. He opens Pandora's box to defeat Ares, and then that like keeps becoming a theme to where it infects all the gods with the evil that was in Pandora's box. And pretty much it's about Kratos destroying Greek gods and Olympus. And there's a lot of rage. Zeus is his dad. He kills him. By the way, we're talking spoilers. I didn't warn anyone about. But we gave our rating. You had long enough.
No, we're not into God of War
Yeah,
PS4 yet.
that's
so
true.
we're
This
good.
is old game.
Spoilers
Old
for-
game.
Still in the game
Spoilers.
from
Very old
2007.
Yeah, it's past the statute of
Yeah,
limitations.
if you're listening to
so-
this spoiler cast, then you're in the right place.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so pretty much Kratos destroys everyone. And I have to say, just with the original trilogy, the thing that really redeems the original trilogy for me is right at the very end when Kratos quote unquote kills himself and releases hope to mankind. That was like my favorite part of the game after all was said and done. I loved the games and enjoyed the gameplay, but like the fact that they ended on hope was just, I thought that was so cool when I played that originally. And then of course you have they always need to leave it open to a sequel. And this is, what year was this again? 2007?
7, yeah, the first one.
Yeah, long time ago. And there's just like a little blood trail, and then he goes off, and you don't know where Kratos went. But hope has been released to mankind. So now zoom forward. We're in 2018, and now we got a bearded, wiser, I mean, good-looking Kratos. Like he is a cool dude, cool-looking dude. Lots of big muscles. You can see the background with Patrick's there, the rippling muscles, the scar from where Zeus stabbed him. So good. So I'm gonna try to brush through some of some of the story beats, if you guys are cool with that, and talk about just the story, since that's really the main focus. I think that for all of us, that's really what makes it a 10 out of 10 is the focus, because the total shift from what was before was amazing. Like, people call it a reboot only because of how big of a shift it is, when in fact it's not a reboot whatsoever. It's a sequel. It just continues the story. And yeah, so it's unbelievable what they do with the source material that they had before. A lot of the joiner questions, I think, has us kind of focusing on our reflections once we kind of understand both stories. So we're just going to jump into the story. And through it all, you guys feel free to just chime in on the good, bad, and the ugly of the game. Not that there's really anything ugly about it. I mean, there is. I do have one qualm, which I'll get to eventually, but no spoilers yet. So Kratos is in the realm of the Norse gods. He married a lady named Faye who has just died, and he has a 10-year-old son with her. Her dying wish was to have her ashes spread on the highest peak in all the 9 realms of the area. And they believe, of course, that to be a mountain that overlooks their home in Midgard. And so they think, hey, we need to go to the top of this mountain. Of course, Kratos is very quick to say that his son is not ready for the journey. What did you guys think of Kratos as a dad in the first hour or so?
He seemed like he was a grumpy old man.
Yeah.
100%. Like he was because he was, if you played the first few, if you've played one of the previous God of War games, you know that he's a mad guy. And you can just see that there's that pent up anger and he is just grumpy. It's like he's like Bruce Banner. And then if you make him angry, he's going to turn green. He's going to whoop some butt. And you could feel that he was teetering on that line from the beginning of the game all the way to the end.
Yeah.
Spartan Rage was on the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a cool gameplay mechanic because you've pressed in the L3, R3, you start the rage.
Yeah. I can't remember. Kris, remind me, with Spartan Rage, I don't remember what it was like in the originals, but I know in this one it felt so like it was so basic. Like you just had your fist and you pummeled people. That's it. That was Spartan Rage. Was that what it was like in the originals?
No, you become OP, but I don't remember you stopping to use your weapons, right? You didn't start punching.
Right. That's what I thought. Yeah, you still use your weapons when you Spartan Rage off in the old ones. So that was interesting.
It's like special moves, really strong.
Yeah, I felt like actually the Spartan Rage in this one was a little underwhelming. Like the power wasn't hugely over, but you just were invincible. Like nothing could hurt you. You just and you would like automatically magnetize to people.
You actually gained health from hurting others with the rage on, which is pretty helpful.
Yeah.
At the really, really beginning, when he's chopping wood, and he looks like he's a normal human being, not necessarily strong. It looks like he's back to the beginning of all the other games, but then he takes the tree like it's made out of foam.
Right. Just picks
like,
it up.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
That was a theme for 75% of the game, is him trying to act like a mortal and not a god.
Trying to act like a normal. Yep. And that was a huge theme because he's hiding it most of the time.
And you see him looking at his forearms at the really beginning too.
He's wrapping them up.
And it looks like still hurts, and it's such a powerful moment right at the beginning.
Well, yeah, and at the beginning where they showed before he cuts the tree down and Faye's handprint is on the tree, that sets the tone for the rest of the game, because any place that is yellow, that's where she was.
Yeah.
And you follow basically the yellow trail the whole game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which
their
I
ability
did not catch till about halfway through the game.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know that I ever caught it. So that's a cool little tip.
I didn't put two and two together. I thought it was just like that, those white glimmering things in Uncharted where that's where you need to go. But it's powerful to think it was Faye.
Yeah, I did not catch it until like 2 minutes left in the game when Atreus is like, "Hey, there's Mom's handprint." I was like, "What?"
She was with us the whole time.
Dang it!
Yeah. They immediately set the tone, and you guys I think a couple of you already mentioned the fact that this game is one shot is amazing. Like, I know they do the little elevator tricks and the loading tricks where it doesn't cut away and it's like biding its time so it can load the next area. But man, there were times where I would blink, like, just because I thought there needs to be a cut here. Like it needs to cut to another, like cut to Atreus or cut to the boss or someone who's talking, and it doesn't. The whole time it's like seamlessly moving. I think that's amazing. And the fact that I think it's the first video game to ever do that is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and one of the, it's like with video games, there's always like a stopping point. You're like, beat the level. All right, I'm going to bed and I'll pick this up tomorrow. When you're playing this game and there's no really stopping point, it was hard to like put it down.
Yeah,
because of that. And it's just made me keep it kept me in the game, rather than
Yeah.
turn it off. I never knew what time it was.
For sure.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's normal for me.
I
with
mean,
video
yeah,
games
that's saying
anyways,
that's
but-
your normal. That's you playing Apex.
It's only been 15 minutes. Oh no, it's 4 hours. Whoops.
Yeah. Oh, it's been a week. Oh,
I don't think I've done that.
oh okay, that's good.
Wait, did I miss your birthday, Clark?
Yeah. Graduated? You're a doctor? All right. So Kratos does not think Atreus is ready for the journey. He's very much a pretty he doesn't beat around the bush with Atreus. He's just pretty much like, you're not ready. You suck. Like he's just like so mean to his son. He's like got to be the worst dad ever at the beginning.
Mhm.
I mean, there's nothing I would have never thought that Kratos would have made a good dad. And definitely most of this game, he did not make for a great dad. But at the same time, like the way they portray his, like these flashes of wanting to be a better dad, like, and he
Yeah.
doesn't even say
Mhm.
anything. It's like in his
Mhm.
face when he goes to touch him and
Yep.
then lifts his hand back because he doesn't
Yeah.
want to show weakness. Like, it's so good. It's so good. And I think a lot of dads could relate to that in some way, or relate to a father that was like that.
Yeah,
And
that was
so,
my father.
It's like
Yeah.
extreme tough love, right? He's being he wants his son to be strong and be able to go through all kinds of hard periods or combat or anything. He wants his son to be a survivor, so he's extremely severe with him.
yeah. And so he takes him through the forest. They go on a deer hunting trip. I don't know if you guys have ever gone hunting with your dads or uncles, or I went hunting with my uncles once, and they were very much patient with me. I definitely did not kill anything. I'm more of a lover, not a fighter. But Kratos would have definitely put me down and yelled at me for not killing the deer. But yeah, so you go on the deer hunting trip, and it's pretty much a tutorial for you to learn how to control Kratos to fight, because very quickly you meet Draugr, you meet a troll, and you discover that Kratos is still the man. He is still like rolling heads, beating everything up, and then at the same time you start to learn that Atreus is not just an escort mission. He's not just an NPC tagging along. That this is when they start to also introduce how Atreus can help you and uses arrows and that kind of stuff. What did you guys think of that additional character that develops over time? And we don't have to wait to talk about it because we've all gone through it. What did you guys think of the added Atreus factor in the fighting?
Well, in the combat, I really loved it. From the get-go, I fused square and R1 together and would just spam those every time I would fight anybody, and it served me well. It's really just, I would put especially the electricity arrows. To me, they were stunning and they did some damage too, and it was really a good combo. So he was really helpful for sure.
There were times when I totally forgot to press square. Like
Agreed. I was the same way.
I was like, I ended it. I was like, oh man, I forgot Atreus can use his arrows to help me out with those people over there. And but yeah, there was times where like if I was fighting a Valkyrie or if I was fighting a boss, and I'm like, oh okay, I need to use him now. But if I was fighting like the normal lackeys, I was like, I don't think I use them very often.
Yeah,
You're like, hey Atreus, watch this.
Yeah, boy,
but,
get over there.
Like,
I got this.
Well, and Chris was like, yeah, I spammed R1. I totally forgot about changing his arrows or, using the combo. I would just hit square a few times and then go back to whacking him with the axe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of the axe, you guys have already alluded to it, but man, that Leviathan axe, there was nothing like calling it back from anywhere. I don't know if you guys did this later on, but there were times where I would actually forget about the axe and I would be in another area and he'd just be like, hold, thunk, and then it would just come into my hand and I'm like, yes.
You're like, where's my axe? Why can't I do anything?
You were like Thor.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Supposed to come back
straight up like Thor, and it was really cool.
Man, it was so good.
Yeah, those puzzles where you had to throw it and stick it somewhere so you could get into an area, and then you just leave.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, and then I'd start fighting someone. I'm like, "Where's my
Punching
weapon?"
I need this. Yeah. Yep. So from there, once Atreus kind of gets, his feet wet and you guys beat up on a troll, you go back home, and this is where you meet the stranger. And this is within the first hour, and this is easily the best introductory boss fight of any game ever. It's got to be at least top 3. I can't think of anything better than
Yeah, I
this.
agree.
But you fight this stranger, and you find out Kratos is not the only one with godlike powers in this realm, and also not the only one with issues. And they beat each other up. They pulverize each other. Eventually, you learn that this stranger, he has no pain. But he also is very much beatable. And Kratos pulverizes him, tosses him into a hole, and then just kind of limps back, eventually just healing himself through his demigod powers. And that concludes the gameplay fighting tutorial for the game. And so then you get into the real game after that. What did you guys think of the stranger? Did you know who he was when you originally played it? Did you have any guesses? I had no idea.
Yeah, no idea.
None. No,
He was
I had
just-
no idea.
I just thought he was some kind of hippie with lots of tattoos and issues.
Mhm.
He was just like,
And even after, when you learn his name and everything, like I don't know enough Norse mythology. You know,
Right.
there's a lot of it that appears in Marvel movies. They all carry the same names, and it's similar. But this character is a name of another video game series, but I
Right.
had no clue what he
Right.
what he
Like
did
Baldur's
in
Gate,
that mythology.
think?
Yeah. They have a good four games. I think 2 PC and 2 PS2 games.
Yeah.
So Baldur's Gate, but I didn't know about him.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't find out he's Baldur until much later in the game. At the beginning, he's just a stranger, and
Mhm.
you know playing video games and knowing stories, you know that at this point, once you toss him into the hole, he'll be back. Like there's just no question about it. But at that point, we had no idea. So you leave home with Atreus trying to go to the mountain. You run into a witch named Freya after you accidentally shoot her pet pig, and she, chastises you, and then you follow her back to her house, and you get to, learn a little bit about what's going on in the area and get to meet her. And then after that, you get to meet the World Serpent at the Lake of the Nine, which I don't know about you guys. When you first encounter that huge beast, I was like, oh man, let's go. It's boss fight
Yeah.
time. Like I totally thought I was going to fight this huge serpent. Because I mean,
Same. Yeah.
that's
I just went, we got to fight that? No.
easily
Yeah.
the biggest character in God of War history. Like
Well,
so huge.
during that scene, my son was in the room, and he's like, I'm scared. I'm scared. And I was like, don't worry, buddy. He's a nice snake. He's going to help us out.
Yeah, he
See
blesses your
See that?
axe.
He's turning us. He's turning the whole area, and we get to go on our way. He's a nice one,
Yeah.
but he doesn't. I mean, the way he was like, the brooding sound, like,
Oh, his voice was incredible. So yeah,
it's like,
Yeah.
I have no idea what you're saying, but apparently they don't understand it. I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
yeah,
There was no
And
subtitles either, because I had in this game I had subtitles, and there was
Yeah.
no subtitles for that. I was like, okay, what is he saying?
And when you're exploring an area where he's not too far and you kind of hear him, you hear him in the background. To me,
Yeah.
it sounded like a semi truck, just like the
Ugh.
on not moving when they're on idle. And it was
Mhm.
like, what is this? Like I had a toy growing up that made the exact same sound.
Who knew it was the World Serpent the whole time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, you mentioned, Patrick, how there's no subtitles. That's another aspect of the game that I really liked, of your dependence on Atreus. He knew all kinds of stuff that he learned from his mom.
Yeah.
And Kratos, you were in the position of Kratos where you had no idea. I mean, I think most people going to this game had little to no knowledge of Norse mythology. Their knowledge of it was Marvel. And so to have Atreus be like, "Oh, let me translate for you, Dad." It was like he's translating for us too, because we had no idea what was happening.
Right.
And yeah, that was really cool. Like, I can't remember, did Atreus translate for the World Serpent, or was that only Mimir? I can't remember if they both translated, or if at that point Atreus spoke the language of the grunting World Serpent.
I don't recall.
I will. Someone can
Yeah.
oops us or we wrong, whatever you want to do. Let us know.
Comment below, like, subscribe, comment, please.
Exactly. But yeah, from there, the World Serpent blesses the axe, and then later on you meet a blue guy named Brock, a dwarf, who is easily the comedy relief of this game. And
He had
his
a potty
brother,
mouth on him.
oh man, did he ever. He had a potty mouth and was very snarky. And then you meet his brother Sindri, who is like an OCD, timid dwarf.
He was the comic relief. Like,
he really was.
Actually, like
He's
Brock, Sindri, and
curious.
Mimir was a really good trio of a lot of funny stuff and
Man.
tongue in cheek. And at one point with Sindri, you just, I don't remember if it was a fetch quest or I was selling him stuff, but he was like, "Where were you keeping all that?" Because I think you find something, you put it behind and it disappears and it's all fine. And he's like, "Where were you keeping?"
Yeah, there's a time where you meet Sindri and there's like a wheel in front of Atreus, and Sindri's like, oh no, did you put your mouth on that wheel? Oh, I'm gonna vomit.
Yeah. This is funny. That was like every other conversation piece was him like dry heaving, but it was a different subject. It wasn't like he said the same thing. That he was
like he's like, "Well, I could fix your axe," and then he goes to hand to him, and he's like, "Whoa," and holding it like this, carrying the handle, going,
"Oh yes, yeah."
There's
So
blood
funny.
all over it.
Yeah.
And anytime they upgrade it, you think they're gonna work on it for a long time, and they just do a little took.
Yeah.
And it's upgraded.
They bless it.
There you go. It's all
Do an
done.
extra blessing. We did it. It's blessed.
It's like, what do you
To the
have
next
behind
level.
there? What's going on over there?
Yeah, it's a special hammer. Now with them, they were a source, and actually introducing the Lake of the Nines. There were a lot of side missions around that area. Did you guys remember or have any particular side missions that you enjoyed that either Brock and Sindri gave you, or other characters in the area? Anything not pertaining to the main quest. You also had freeing of dragons. There was lots of different things that they had you do that I thought were pretty varied. What were your favorites?
It was the dragons for me.
Yeah, 100%.
After I found one, I'm like, well, I have to find the other ones.
All of them.
Yeah, no doubt, right? Also thought I was going to have to fight them. I was ready to fight everything in this game.
Yeah,
Like,
I felt
I'm going to have
that
to
too.
kill you.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so cool that you didn't have to kill them. You just freed them.
To me, it's not a side quest in particular, but it's the map and direction system. To me, when you get to the first boat and the map opens up, it was way too overwhelming for me.
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna mainline. I follow my little arrow, and when they started
Mhm.
giving you option to track one, and basically I would do all of those. I wouldn't do any free roaming exploration because, as Tim said, it's fine if there's a Y and you're supposed to go left, so you go right. I'm able to wrap my head around that. But if it's just an open map with endless stuff to explore, I was like, nope, I'm going to the main quest. So having those blue side quests to track was really neat.
Yeah. And I found that, like Ghost of Tsushima, which is a newer game from last year, I found that most of the side quests in this one felt like world building, like enriching. They were quality adventures. Like, I really enjoyed the I guess the chain of side quests that you got from Brock and Sindri to eventually give them like the perfect hammer so they could make you some nice armor, and but just all the side stuff to that. And I really liked the were they called the Jotun shrines? The Jotun shrines? the little cupboards
ones that you opened up?
Yeah, those are
Yeah,
are
I
really
thought
cool.
those were so cool. Like when Atreus would explain the history. I mean, some of them were bizarre. Like people with like 8 arms, and Odin pretty much killing everybody, like being a real jerk. Yeah, so it's good stuff. After this, you reach the summit or the foot of Midgard Mountain. You encounter the first MacGuffin, which sends you to a new realm called Alfheim, which was probably my least favorite realm. I don't know about you guys. Pretty much Freya helps you go to Alfheim using the Bifrost, which was not as rainbow and colorful as it is in
Mhm.
Marvel, but I still thought it was cool the way they connected all the realms and spun the little dial around to take you to different realms. But yeah, you go to Elfheim, you fight a bunch of fairies. That doesn't sound that dangerous, but these guys are pretty angry. The dark elves were not cool. They
Mhm.
were not about having conversation or anything. I thought it was pretty interesting. You're at the tail end of a civil war, and you actually help settle the civil war.
Well, did we though? Because it
Well,
feels like
yeah,
both sides are fighting, and we took the light elf side, basically taking the power out of the castle or
that's
whatever,
true.
and then I think Atreus was really 100% in favor of doing that, but after doing it, he had a bit of remorse and wasn't sure if he did the right thing, because
Yeah,
basically he 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 you don't have the background, or you don't really understand who are the good guys between the light and dark elves.
yeah, it's true. Yeah, you have some interesting conversations with Atreus in that. The other thing that happens in that is when you are getting the light so that you can disperse the darkness that's at the foot of the mountain. Uh, Kratos has a vision, and then he comes out of the vision, and Atreus is like ticked, and he's like, "I've been here for hours waiting for you," and for Kratos it was only a few moments. And this
Mhm.
is where the grumpy, bipolar, rage-filled father, he gets to see what his terrible parenting has created, because his son all of a sudden is no longer patient with his dad, no longer understanding, is starting to have his own voice. What did you guys think? Did you guys have any thoughts about, like, and you can go further into the game, but like the change from Atreus just being his a daddy's boy to
Mhm.
then becoming his own kind of man? What did you think of that transition when he started having a bit of an attitude, or kind of mouth back or whatever?
Yeah, he started to act like his dad, to be honest.
Yeah,
I mean, the apple didn't fall far from the tree here. So, yeah, with him being like a little wimpy kid at the beginning, to start acting like his dad, I'm like, yeah, okay, this totally makes sense that he's starting to act like this.
It takes a 90-degree turn. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that right now, but when he learned that he's a god, it
right.
it takes a shift. Like, and he was really annoying to me. Like he
Oh,
Yep.
was being
Oh, he was full of
that
himself.
little teenager plop.
Yeah,
like
little
yeah,
teenager
right?
plop.
like he
Yes.
was really mean to Sindri. I was like, wow, like why he's just been nice, and
Yeah,
he's really, and then going up the mountain he's even worse. And I'm like, I hope this does not end like that or last for too long, because he was really, really annoying, and everything that was so nice and hopeful about him, because basically all of the gods are they're like superheroes. When he learns that that he's a guy, he's like, what's my power? Can I change into an animal, or can I
right.
fly, and stuff like that? So it's like
Yeah.
Marvel characters, but all of them are really bad, and this one was pure and good and had good intentions, and you really don't want him to turn that way, and it was going into that direction for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried to throw my axe at him. He was that annoying.
Nice.
Like, I have teenagers. I know exactly where this is headed.
He had like
Ugh.
flashbacks. Yeah,
Ugh.
like PTSD. Yeah. Yeah, I was not a fan of Atreus through the like most of the middle part of the journey. When
Yeah.
he started to just get full of himself, it was awful. But it was a part of the journey, and it really gives us a glimpse for those of us that don't have teenagers yet. Patrick, you've gotten a glimpse of it. It's that kind of stuff happens. It was very realistic in terms of like you're gonna have to deal with it. So, but yeah. So after you get the mist breaking light, you use it to go further up the mountain, and in the process, you run into a dragon, in which Kratos finally slays a huge monster, and it was awesome. I don't remember how to pronounce its name, but it was just a big dragon, and it was really cool.
Is that the moment when he goes in its mouth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was epic.
Yeah. That was
super
like
epic.
that felt like almost like a not an Easter egg, but like almost like an ode to the old God of War games.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
that was just what they were like. Like Kratos grabbing some huge spiky thing that he can shove into the giant monster and just like somehow like use the momentum to crush its head and skull or whatever. And it was like, wow.
Yeah. And that's kind of where you really got to use Atreus, because he said, okay, well, you want to help, you go up here.
Yeah. Be the
And,
sniper.
yeah. And you be the sniper and you shoot arrows to distract him. And then I will do my thing.
Yep. And I thought it was impressive too, because when you start out the game and you have the new fighting technique, I'm like, we're not going to be able to do the big, huge battles. I mean, you kind of had it with the troll, but it was like, this isn't the same. Like the old God of War games, like you were on top of like these skyscraper sized monsters. And there's no way I'm going to be able to do this with this close drawn in third person, but they did it. Like they were able to do both types of fighting styles. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, the direction for those fight scenes was really well done.
Yeah.
And it never felt
really.
too close or too far. It was really well done. And even when it was close, you could tell like the magnitude of who you were fighting or what you were fighting. So it was really well done.
Yeah, for sure. From there, as a little side piece, Atreus gets new kind of arrows made of mistletoe. Not a big deal. Just little green arrows. What kind of part
At
could
that point,
play?
it was not a big deal.
Exactly. It's like, oh, green arrows, cool.
Spoilers, they
upgrade.
come back and there's a reason.
Yeah, for sure. You finally get to the peak of Midgard and you're dropping some eaves. You see the stranger, and you find out he's the Norse god Balder, as we talked about already. He's talking to Modi and Magni, the sons of Thor. They're looking for Kratos, and they're talking to a man who's part tree, part man, called Mimir, who's supposedly the smartest man alive. You once the three other guys, Balder and the sons of Thor, once they leave, you start chatting with them. Start chatting with Mimir, and he tells you, hey, guess what? This is not the tallest mountain in the realms. And immediately you're like, oh, big surprise. Yeah, I didn't think I was going to get there.
Game's over in 2 hours. Whew. All right.
Ooh, all right. Sweet. So he says, but no, don't worry, my friends. I can help you travel to Jotunheim, where the largest mountain in all the realms, in the realm of the giants, appropriately, where the largest mountain is. But you can't get there because they've blocked it, because Odin and Thor are not allowed to enter, or they'll beat up the giants and do lots of bad things. So Mimir says, hey, I'm going to show you the way. All you got to do is cut off my head. Seems simple enough. And so cuts off Mimir's head. You take him to the witch, Freya. She revives him. And then they start to have some more chats, and they discover that they need to... what do they need to do? I'm trying to remember. Oh, they have to
go on a fetch quest and get certain ingredients.
Yeah, they have to pretty much get ingredients to get into Jotunheim. And in the process, they run into Magni and Modi, the sons of Thor. And you start to have some battles with them. In the process of that boss battle, Atreus starts to reveal his rage issues, and he starts getting sick. And it's there that you then have a new quest to do in the midst of trying to get to Jotunheim. You have to find the heart of the keeper of the bridge in hell, aka Helheim. And at this point, your axe is useless. And this is where things get even more interesting, because Kratos says, I know what I must do. And you go back to your house. And in one of the most powerful scenes in the game, you get into the cellar or whatever underneath the home that you've been living in with Atreus and Freya, Faye.
Hey.
Yeah, Faye. And you get out the blades of Olympus. What did you guys think of this moment when you got out the blades?
Chaos.
Blades of Chaos, you mean?
Or Blades of Chaos. Sorry, not the Blades of Olympus. The
Yeah.
Blades of Chaos.
It was like in the previous games with these, they're just a part of them, but in this game, it was more powerful because he had to put those back on, because the beginning of the game he's like wrapping up because he doesn't want to see them. He doesn't
Hiding
want
it.
to see the memory, the scars of having those chains. So putting those back on was a big deal for him.
Yeah.
Huge.
Did anybody else go when he removed the Blades of Chaos out of the cellar, which was the same place he hid Atreus when Baldur showed up at the beginning of the game? And I'm like, that's the worst hiding spot ever.
Yeah. How did your son not find that? Oh, what are these, Dad? Don't worry, boy. Just ignore it.
But yeah, like Pat said, when he pulls those out, because I was like, is that where we're going? And then they pulled those out. I'm like, oh my goodness. And they look even more menacing in 2018 versus 2007.
Yeah, the fire effects, all his magic. It's not just blades attached to chains. It's all the magic and power that he's got with those. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, and I really thought it opened up the battle system. Once you go through hell and once you use the blades to meander your way, because of course in Norse mythology, hell hath frozen over in Helheim. It's a frozen place of the dead, and that's why you have to use the blades. And I really like how it opened up, because the blades gave you more reach, and so it gave you more crowd control, which I appreciated. The axe was more for up close and personal, like one-on-one. There wasn't a whole lot of crowd control with the axe. So the axe and the blades together, perfect combo. Loved it. But yeah, so from there, you get the heart, you heal your boy, and everybody's feeling better. You go back to the gate to, Mimir's helping you open up the gate to Jotunheim to go to the highest mountain. You get there, and who shows up but none other than you've already killed Magni and Modi. Do you guys want to say anything about Magni and Modi? R.I.P. Do you really Atreus does kill one of them.
Kill Thor's sons.
Yeah, which is a
big deal.
Yeah.
And the first battle, you only kill one of them, and then Atreus, doesn't he kill?
He does.
Modi or Magni?
Yeah, he finishes.
Later?
He's not a menace anymore, but Atreus.
Kratos
that's right after he learns he's a god and he's angsty.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but regardless, he kills. They both kill Thor's sons, which is a huge deal. And if you're thinking futuristically, like this is going to come back to bite them. Thor or Odin is going to show up at some point.
Right.
Because if someone kills my son, I'm going to go after whoever did that. So it's a foreboding, not ominous. So it was just a foreboding scene right there, with that. So that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially at the beginning of the game where Atreus was kind of idolizing Thor because he had the big statue at the lake, and he was like, "There's Thor," and then he ends up killing one of his sons after Kratos showed mercy.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. That's with Modi and Magni. Their presence does also push that relationship between Kratos and Atreus, because, like you guys said, Kratos doesn't want to kill them. He's beaten them. And he's like, we don't have to kill them. We can, as he says later on, we can be better. But Atreus doesn't want to do that. And so that creates a lot of tension between the two. And it comes to a boil when the boy shoots Kratos with arrows when they're confronted by the stranger Baldur. Because Atreus pretty much says, I can beat up Baldur myself. I can destroy him myself. And he shoots Kratos with arrows. And in the process, or shoots him with an arrow, and in the process, they break the gate to Jotunheim, and you're like, oh, here we go. Not going to go the easy route, are we? Now we have to find another way to get to Jotunheim. And so at this point, Kratos disciplines his son, puts him in his place. They discover... At this point, Balder nabs Atreus after Kratos is shot, and they plummet into hell. And through that course, there's a lot of story that happens where Atreus discovers a little bit of Kratos' backstory. You discover a lot of Balder's backstory, where he's been numbed by his mother because his mother doesn't want him to die. There's been a prophecy that says Balder's going to die, and she doesn't want that to happen. So she puts a magic spell on him that makes him immortal, like completely invincible, except he can't feel anything.
Yeah, it numbs not just the bad feelings or anything that hurts him. All the everything he feels no longer. So it's not really worth living for him.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not happy.
Yep. And so after that, they return to Midgard, and Mimir says, "Hey, there's another way to Jotunheim."
Of course there is. Yeah.
All we got to do.
Thanks, Mimir.
Let's go chat with the old. I can't remember his name, but the Old World Serpent. He's got a long name that I can't remember. Anybody remember?
Rodham.
Jotun something.
Yeah, it's like Jotunheim. It's almost. Well, no, the Jotunheim is the giant's world. It's like that though. It's got extra syllables in the middle.
It's got dots and things.
Yeah, there are dots there. Yep. A little ach is in there too, I think. That might be Scottish. Never mind. So you got to get Mimir's missing eye. I mean, we were wondering where that was the whole time. Speaking of, real quick, Mimir. At one point, my son was watching me explore the realms, and he saw Mimir's head on my belt, and he was like, "Dad, is that a head?"
Yes, Clark said the same thing. He's like, "Why do you have a head on your back?"
And without missing a beat, my son's like, "Oh, that's like the tiki mask in Crash Bandicoot." I'm like, "Exactly. He helps you." The end.
Yes, in totally different scenarios of how they got there.
That is correct. I didn't have to tell him that I cut his head off earlier from a tree and put him around my belt. He was just there as my buddy.
I don't know if him being headless is any part of the Norse mythology, but it was a really clever way to tell you a lot of backstory and a lot of mythology without having to read anything, or it's just a clever mechanic to tell you all of those stories. And every time I was in the boat and he was telling a story, I was
didn't want to land,
getting to a shore, and I'm like, nope, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna let him finish.
No, and so that the boat rides were my only gripe in the whole game. However, on the flip side of that, there was also one of the best things because of Mimir's stories. If Mimir didn't have a story, it's like, oh, let's just get to the next checkpoint here. But whenever he had a story, it was legit.
When I was doing the collectibles in Alfheim, I actually went underground because I needed to find some collectibles. I ended up, at the other side of the water. And to my knowledge, it's the only place where you can come to a deck and there's no boat. If you didn't bring a boat there, there's none.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that was not cool, having to travel all the way underground. And that was something I was kind of making fun of, because you can bring a boat somewhere. When you arrive, there's no boat, and you can go to any other decks and there's always a boat. And it's fine like that, except that one time that was really not cool.
Definitely not cool. Not cool at all. So after this, you go into the World Serpent. You get Mimir's eye, because it's got mythical powers that help you go into it. Can, I don't know, control the Bifrost to get you to Jotunheim, whatever. But upon retrieving it, of course, it's not that easy. And the World Serpent gets indigestion, and you find out that indigestion is Balder, who shows up again. And then shortly after, Freya also shows up. You get into a three-way argument and then a fight where you're fighting Balder as Kratos, and then also Freya is trying to protect her son, and she takes control of the giant that you were working around earlier in the game, who has a huge,
when you get the chisel,
stake in his head, the chisel. Yeah, you put the chisel through his head, and all of a sudden he's looking at you like the joke arrow from what people use for costumes. That's what it looks like is on his head.
Steve Martin.
Yeah, like Steve Martin. So you get a little a scuffle, and then at some point, Atreus's mistletoe arrows pierces Balder, and his ability to feel returns, along with his ability to die.
Yes.
And Kratos beats him up, but spares his life, and he tries to demonstrate mercy.
Mhm.
But again, a child
I
tries
had
to.
chills when they
Yeah.
have this talk,
Yeah.
and basically Atreus showing that he learned and he doesn't. He's not a menace anymore. Let's leave him
Yep.
be. Let's not kill him. I had chills. It was really cool
Yeah.
moment.
It was really cool. Atreus learned his lesson.
Yeah.
However, Balder did not learn his lesson. He quickly turns on his mom, starts to choke her and kill her, and Kratos is like, "Nope, we're ending the cycle here," and
Mhm.
grabs him, breaks his neck. The
Dude
end.
just grabs his neck and just breaks it, and Balder just falls.
What a moment. Like,
Mm.
just the whole thing all together.
He's like, I
was
gave
just
you a
like,
chance,
Yeah.
and you blew it.
Yep.
Now you're dead.
Yeah, and Freya was quite okay with him killing her.
He
Yeah.
was. She was going to let him
She
because
wasn't
she
fighting
felt so
back.
guilty.
Yeah. Mhm.
And of
and
course,
that cycle, you know, they talk about a lot of people killing their parents, a lot of gods, I mean, killing their parents, and when they were in Helheim, that's the vision that Atreus saw of him killing
Yep.
his dad, and he asked at one point, is that all it is that always how it ends up,
Yeah.
you know, that everybody killing their parents? So ending the cycle there was really strong.
Yeah, it was really powerful because I think that's where he says we can be better. We will be better. And
Mhm.
like just totally like coming full circle, just like, yes. I was like rooting
Yeah.
for both of them at that point. Just
But
like so.
Speaking of the cycle, put a pin in that because I'm going to come back to it at the end of the
Okay.
game.
Got it. Noted.
Okay.
So once you kill Balder, Freya is not very happy about that. She's ticked. In fact, she reveals that she's a little more powerful than she let on, and pretty much it starts to snow. And Mimir notes later on, I think, that Ragnarok has begun thanks to Freya and thanks to your decisions and acts. Kratos, of course, is like, whatever. I've dealt with worse. I'm out of here. And so
Yeah,
he leaves with
yes.
his son. They like, we got bigger fish to fry. We got to go to Jotunheim. And so you arrive in Jotunheim, and you see on your way to get to the peak of the mountain, you see a variety of murals depicting the details of your adventures. Everything that had happened to that point was the main points were all depicted in the
Mhm.
murals. And you're like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
And I mean, this is alluded to that the giants had like whatever it's called, future predicting,
Yeah, foresight.
Yeah.
foresight
They
skills,
can see the future.
magic brains, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, they
can
had the
see
magic
future.
brains.
Magic brains. Yoda has magic hands. They have magic brains. And so, but these murals show the past, the present that they had just experienced, and it shows some of the future. And it shows from some very disturbing things, some of which looks like Kratos being sacrificed or killed at some point.
Yeah, so like what I was talking about, the cycle is going to end here. It's not going to end. My prediction
Okay.
is at some point, because the last mural, as Atreus is walking up the mountain, Kratos is still inside, and he sees like that curtain kind of flailing in the wind, and he sees a picture, a mural of looks like Atreus kind of holding Kratos as Kratos is dying.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like at some point that Atreus is going to have to kill Kratos. That's, and whatever that looks like, you know, it could be like,
Right.
hey, you have to sacrifice me. It's probably going to be what it's going to be like. He's not going to do it out of malice. He's going to do it out of mercy or out of the betterment of the world. But
Yeah.
I think
Maybe
that's
to
what
prevent Ragnarok or to
could be.
help bring it into Freya's craziness.
Yeah, but that's probably going to be the end of the whole Kratos series. That's what it's gonna be.
Okay.
That's my
All right.
prediction. But I did.
Yeah.
You couldn't really. There's no. I mean, there's no words underneath it. There's no
There's
translation.
no context.
It was just a mural of him holding Kratos. It looks like he's dying. He's probably not taking a nap on Atreus' lap. It's
like
not happening.
nap time with Dad. So I'm taking a nap with Dad. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so brief, you can't tell if he's holding him or if he's standing above him like he killed him.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah. So in the midst of this, looking at all these murals and talking, I guess at this point we didn't know that Faye was a giant. That's revealed in this part too, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
we
the big
didn't
reveal.
know
We didn't
before
know that.
Jotunheim.
Yeah. That
Mhm.
Faye was actually a giant. That's revealed.
Right.
And then on top of that, that makes Atreus part giant, part demigod, and that his giant, quote unquote, giant name was none other than, and this is the biggest reveal of all, Loki. And immediately you're like, Kratos, run. You've got a
Yes.
crazy son. That's a huge villain. There's no good that's going to come from this. You tried. You made a good effort. Sorry. Yeah. What did you guys think of that reveal?
Well, the only Loki I know is the god of mischief from
Exactly.
the Marvel movies. So I'm like, wait, hold on a second. Is he related to Thor somehow? Because in the movies, the Loki and Thor are brothers because
But by
Loki is
adoption.
adopted.
But he's
Right.
adopted.
So
I'm adopted?
yeah, like and Loki and Thor are they are vastly different in age, right? So
Yeah.
how does all of that work out? Because like I said, the only thing I know is from the Marvel universe.
Right.
So I like, okay, cool, his name's Loki, but what does that mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about that, and we didn't really touch on it too much, but throughout, like looking at the what are they called again? The Jotun shrines, I don't know how to pronounce it. The little cupboards.
The shrines.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
shrines. Well, good call.
Yeah.
Let's just call them the shrines. When you look at the shrines, they talk about time, and they talk about and there are different conversations with Mimir and Atreus that time in Norse mythology is not linear; it's cyclical, and there's a sense in the fact that everything with time has always been and always will be and is. Like it's not working like you're here and then later on you're here. It's you can be here and then you can be before, you can be after, and in its appearance. It's very complicated and very convoluted. But pretty much the idea is that in Norse mythology, the world serpent is actually Loki's son.
Mhm.
Son?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
And
supposedly
go ahead and tell us, Kris.
it's Loki's son. But then when the world serpent was fighting Thor, they fought so hard that basically the world serpent killed Thor and went back in time.
Yeah.
So that's why he would be, and that's all hypothetical. They don't necessarily say it in the game. It's based on the mythology, but
Okay, that kind of makes sense.
That's why he would be so nice to us, because it's Atreus' son.
Okay, yeah, that does make sense. Also, in the mural, if you catch it, it looks like there is a snake kind of coming out of Atreus or around Atreus.
It does.
So okay, because I was like, how does the snake come into play, or how does that come into play? And
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, you can't think of a son like there's a mom, there's a dad. Pretty much, it's the offspring of like Atreus somehow creates the world serpent. Like it has its origins in Loki. Loki is the creator of the world serpent that then is knocked back in time by Thor after he kills Thor in kind of like the same kind of battle. But that also runs into another thing that, well, I might put a pin on that because that goes into, we'll save predictions right for the end to just have a couple
dang it,
things.
I already did my predictions.
You already did, but that's okay. So after Loki is revealed to be the giant name for Atreus, Kratos also reveals that Atreus's name comes from a compassionate Spartan friend and fellow warrior that he fought alongside, which was a nice touch.
And that was during the credits.
Yeah, this during the credits while you're walking back, he's telling you about that.
Which is cool, yeah.
Yeah, where was that for the last 10 years, Dad?
Yeah, really. It's like, why can't you talk more about your nice friends instead of just yelling at me all the time? Why couldn't he have been my dad? Ouch. From there, if you return home, you get a bonus video and where Thor shows up with his big hammer.
Hold on,
And-
let's go back a little bit. It's
Oh,
like
okay, sorry.
they go to bed and it's like years later.
Yeah,
That's
they
true. It
And
does
slept
say
they
years
they
later.
wake up and they're like, hey, it looks like they just went to bed. They're not,
Yeah.
Atreus
a
doesn't look
nap.
any older.
Mhm.
Kratos still looks like he's wearing the gear that he wore when he was sleeping.
Yep.
But he wakes up and then Thor it's you don't know it's Thor, but you kind of know it's happening.
Yeah. Well, he's
until-
holding
With the
meow, meow.
lightning.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
but then the hammer shows up. Right?
Yep.
It's like his robe kind of unveils the hammer, which was just like a really, really cool shot.
Foreboding. Yeah.
The
Very
way
cool
that was
shot.
shot.
Yeah. And then it cuts to black, and Atreus wakes up and said, "I had a dream last night."
Yep.
Or what? I can't remember if
Yeah.
he said, and we saw Thor, or
Thor came to
was
our
like-
doorstep or something
yeah,
like that.
Thor
yeah.
came to our
Mhm.
doorstep, and you're
And
like,
I'm like, well, you're a giant and you just saw the future.
you just saw the future.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I wonder if in his
That's-
dream it said years later.
yeah. If he saw that, he was like, okay, I need to let me write this down. Years later, okay.
You better write it down, otherwise you're gonna forget your dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Need to get a dream journal.
Yeah.
And I just played that game. I started 6 weeks ago, so I played it after they announced Ragnarok, and to me Ragnarok was just a cool name, but didn't have any meaning. I wasn't
Yeah.
really that
Right.
pumped about the sequel, but now having played through that and knowing what it means,
what it
it's
represents.
such what that term means. I am so excited for the next game. Like it's such an important event. We're gonna get to see. I hope Odin and Thor. It's
In
crazy that
action.
you don't come across them in that game.
Yeah, I know. Only as ravens. That's it.
Oh, the
And
Ravens.
let me tell
Get
you,
out of here.
I hated those ravens.
Those are the worst.
I can't tell you how many times I was like, I was throwing like the worst aiming person ever. Like I just would throw the axe, and then the bird would just like laugh at me like the dog in Duck Hunt, and just be like, "Ah, you
How did I
missed."
not hit that?
Yeah, the depth perception on some of them was so hard to track.
And trying
Uh,
to aim above them, make it come
yeah.
down, get
With
the arc.
Yeah,
Get the
I
arc.
needed like I don't know, Wii Sports Resort or whatever, where they give you like a little trail. I
Yeah.
needed that little trail to show up.
Yeah, like
I know
Angry Birds.
Exactly. Yeah, like
Yes.
Angry Birds.
Yep.
Exactly. I needed to hit that angry bird before I got angry. Yeah. So, yeah. Overall, I think the only negative thing I thought was that kind of stuff. Some of the collectibles either was too much, or the map working with the collectibles, it was hard to kind of keep track of everything. I had to use a guide for the
Mhm.
collectibles.
Oh,
I could
100%
not-
for like for the birds alone, you had
Oh,
to use
yeah.
a guide.
I could
and-
not keep track of that stuff.
The collectibles in this game are, I gave this game a 10 out of 10 because the story and the combat mechanics, everything is just so good. The collectibles, on the other hand, are not the best kind of collectibles that I've come across, like by any stretch of the imagination. Some of them are really cool, but for the most part, like the birds and just, it's not like Spider-Man Miles Morales or Spider-Man for the PS4, where it's just
Yeah.
like every single thing that you do is important. Like
Yeah, it has
the
a story.
birds were not important. It
Right.
was
Yeah.
just a
No.
thing that they put in for another collectible
Yeah.
to get the platinum.
Yeah.
I mean, they
And
tried to
getting-
work it in. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Chris.
Thanks. So going to them was really, we get lazy with years, and we're spoiled by games that make it easy to find those collectibles. So in Spider-Man, you don't need a guide, it's there, and once you're close-ish, it radiates or something, so you can kind of see it. And it reminded me of the first Infamous compared to
yes.
Infamous 2. Infamous 1, you had to print a map and cross every one of them, and you
Yeah.
would
The
go
shards.
crazy if the shards. And in Infamous 2, then you would just press, I think, R3 or something, and it
Do
would
like a sonar.
show you the direction of the closest one. So you just follow that along and you'd get it. So they could learn a trick or two from more recent collectibles games.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
for sure.
Well, hopefully he has no more ravens. If he so help me, if he like, I don't know, makes like rats or monkeys, Odin's monkeys, and they're just running around and
Was there
throwing
50 of those?
poop at you.
It
Was
felt like
that?
there were 4,000 of them. 'Cause I was so mad about that.
And they
Yeah,
try to
they're-
work into the story, saying that they're his spies. It's Odin's spies.
Yeah.
Still, they're annoying.
Okay. No, if they were spying on me, that bird would not just be flying in a circle over a tree. Like it would actually be
it wouldn't
doing
glow
something.
green.
Yeah. I'd be like, here I am, glowing green, making weird chimey sounds. Yeah. Did you guys do Niflheim and Muspelheim? The extra realms,
That was part of the
Yeah,
platinum,
and
right?
trials.
that's one of my little critiques and why I didn't give it a 10 also. Like Lucas, I'm not the best gamer, and we played many different games, and I'm not I'm not a Patrick, or I'm not you, I'm not better than anybody at games, but for for some reason, from about halfway through the end of the game, I didn't use any resurrection stone. The fight against Baldur, I was playing on normal, and the fight against Baldur was really epic. All the cinematics were really well shot, but it was a bit too easy. And so for the main story, and maybe it's because I just came out of Ascension, or maybe it's because I did all the side quests and I was OP. Maybe it's maybe just my playthrough that was like that, but that made me appreciate the end game content a lot more, because that's where the challenge was for sure,
Yeah.
compared to
see that.
the main game.
You're not giving yourself enough credit, because I was lurking in one of your streams when you were fighting Valkyries and you were wrecking shop. So
For
I
some
was
reason,
working, and I'm like, oh, Kris is streaming. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
normal was no joke against those Valkyries.
Oh,
And I
not at
know,
all.
Kris, that you were like, "Hey, I've beaten everything else on normal. I'm gonna beat the Queen Valkyrie on normal,"
yeah,
and
had to
you
do
did,
it.
which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Kudos to you, man.
But
Yeah.
if you look at, I think maybe it's the gear that I had, that beam was so strong. It would take like a third of her life, and
Yeah,
you just
it
have to
melted her.
wait for it to come back, and it's
And that's funny, that frost beam that you were using. I never used that.
I didn't use it till you told me about it, and I'm like,
I-
oh my gosh, I love this.
I didn't even know it was a thing.
Basically, I did all of my runes and all of my powers were all fire powers. So I would use my you were using more of the axe.
90%
and
axe
I was
for
the
the whole
exact,
game. For
I
the
was
whole
that
game.
exact opposite. Once I got the chains of chaos, or wait, what I
Chains of Chaos.
Chains of Chaos.
right?
Yeah,
You messed
Chains
me
of
up.
Olympus.
You messed me
It
up.
sounds right, doesn't it?
It does. It really.
Blades of Chaos.
I think that wasn't that like one of the God of War PSP games, the Chains,
Chains
of
of
Olympus.
It
Olympus.
is.
Yeah,
that's
That's
probably
the
why.
title of the game.
So yeah, and I did everything with the Chains of Chaos, and I just did the fire and upgraded that, all of those. So which is funny, how we both played in different ways, which was cool, because they have all different kinds that you could play,
and you can choose your armor that maximizes your playstyle too.
right? You could do the
Yep.
frost, if you wanted defense, or if you wanted fire,
Yep.
which
You
was
want a high vitality.
a great way to like customize the way you want to play.
Yeah, and I'm somewhere in the middle of you two, because I chose the Niflheim armor that I got was like the deadly poisonous of all these deadly armor or whatever, but it gave like across the board even, like it pumped you up evenly balanced. And I was the same way with the blades and the axe. I probably was 50-50. Like I would use all my runes. I would first use the axe runes, and then I would use the blade runes, and then I would just kind of hop back and forth to vary it. But yeah, I never really, I mean, I feel like I felt more comfortable with the chains, with the blades, but there's something about that axe. Like I liked kind of doing that roll hit where it would spin in front of you just a little bit and come back if you held the button down and stuff. It was really cool. Just to add to what you guys were talking about with like the in-game content versus the story and sometimes being OP, I did feel like overall, if you didn't play the game, I don't know. I don't know what way in which you could play it. It did feel imbalanced. It didn't feel like the side stuff and the main game really all complemented each other together. Like the Valkyrie Queen was like 10 times harder than
But
any of the other Valkyries.
you did
Like,
take a
it was
huge break,
nuts.
right? You
I
didn't
did.
do
So
it
I was
one
rusty.
shot, so
Yeah.
that's a big factor, I think. If you
Yeah.
do it really one shot,
Maybe
I played
it feels more
63
balanced.
hours, right? And maybe 3 of them were to beat the queen on easy and then normal. So it's 60 hours of prep in 6 weeks. That was really close and makes you really know your combos and ready to fight her.
Yeah.
Now, was this
True.
your first playthrough, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay, so this wasn't a new game plus. You
No,
just rolled
no,
through
no.
the whole thing.
No, that was the first time I played it. I'm keeping New Game
That's
Plus
awesome.
for right before Ragnarok.
Right with you. Yep.
Nice.
Yep. For sure.
Now,
Very-
speaking of the queen, I can't remember who was the queen, because they revealed who it was. Was it Faye? It wasn't Faye.
No.
No.
She's she's like Mimir's old lover or something, and
Awkward.
she got I think she got corrupted by was it Odin, and
Yeah, I think
then
it's Odin.
and then all of the Valkyries were corrupted. So she to protect everyone, she locked them down in those 8 little dungeons.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically their job is to, I think, decide who goes to hell or
I think it's escort. They're more escort people. I thought it was to guide the dead to where they're supposed to go, or maybe judge and guide. I don't know. They're
yeah,
the judge,
I
jury,
think
and
one of them's job
executioners.
at least is to
Yeah.
to choose where they go.
Yeah,
And
it's a group effort.
yeah, and their heaven is what is it called? It's the
Valhalla.
Valhalla, which is a very current game also.
Yeah. Yep. Good stuff. Did you guys have any other predictions before we wrap things up? Any other things? Any other thoughts about where Ragnarok's going to go? You were nodding
Thor
your
and
heads.
Odin are going to be the villains. Ish.
Spoilers.
Enemies.
Spoilers. They will
I mean, come
reveal
on.
Odin.
I
ha-
think
it is.
I think
Yeah.
we'll hear again from Freya for sure.
Oh, for
yes,
sure.
100%. Yeah, because they left that open.
I think Thor and Freya will be the main bosses. I kind of have a feeling they're going to make a trilogy out this again. So I'm going to
I hope
say
so.
Freya and Thor are going to be the main villains in the second, and Odin and maybe Atreus are going to be the villains in the third one.
They better bring back Cinder or Shinder or Sunder, whatever.
Oh,
his name
Sindri?
is. Yeah.
Sindri and Brock.
Sindri.
Yeah, Sindri.
Shinder?
Sindri.
Like, oh,
I can't
hurt
remember.
my
I couldn't.
shin.
Yeah,
I
the
hit my
shin.
shinder.
The Shin and Brock.
Cinder and Brick.
I want to see, now that they're working together. I love the dynamic between them too, because they're like, he does crap work, and he does crap work, and now they're
Mhm.
finally together. And I wonder what they're going to come up with in the second game, because they're gonna be back to give them more gear and whatever.
I think they need to make like a mech for Kratos to use, and and when he rages, he just jumps in it like Megazord, and he
Right.
just crushes his foes.
Here's some nunchucks.
Nunchucks? That's the best you come up with? No, you're fired.
You're going big. I'm going like, hey, they have like
Hey.
a block of stone. Like, I don't know if they can make a mech.
Hey, here's some
Knee
marbles.
braces. He's getting old.
All they need to do, this is a block of stone, one hammer. There's your mech. Got it.
Yep,
Done.
there's your mech. Dink. So one last prediction and theory that I want to throw out there. I talked to Kris about this earlier. Throughout the game, they talk about all kinds of Norse gods. One of the ones they talk about is named Tyr, and he is the Norse god's god of war, and he is he's known as also the peaceful god of war, and also the emissary to many other nations, mythological realms and such. And I think that Kratos is Tyr, and that they're going to reveal him to be the Norse god of war because of time travel, and because Kratos is turning over a new leaf and trying to break the cycle, and Tyr is known as someone, a man or a god of peace, and I think that Kratos is going to try to go that direction for his son, and because of the time travel, because of, like we talked about earlier, because the world serpent is Loki's creation or offspring or whatever, and now he's in the past with them, fully grown and stuff. Like the fact that there's time travel involved, Kratos could definitely become be interpreted as a Norse god, even if he's not. Like it's just going to be more like the way he's portrayed or seen later on. But there's a lot of the murals and stuff that depict Tyr that he's like, he has an axe at his waist. He has wrappings on his forearms like Kratos. There's different things that they drop that I think are subtle connections to Kratos where he could be Tyr. So
Was
Go,
sorry.
Tim.
Was Tyr a giant, or was he just helping the giants?
He was
he
helping the giant.
helping the
Okay.
giants.
And those drawings in Jotunheim were there before they did all those things. So they're clearly able to draw to draw the future, and that's a really interesting theory. And anytime I would hear about Tyr in those drawings and what Mimir was talking about, he really looked like a cool dude, like a really nice god, and the only nice god before Atreus. He's the only one that was for peace and trying to go against Odin and hide the giants and everything. He was a savior for the giants. So it's really cool if that's actually where it's going.
That totally makes sense. And thank you for spoiling it for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yep. Now it's ruined for everyone. So you're
If that
That's
comes
why I'm
true,
here.
I'm gonna
No,
be what Kris was a minute ago.
It totally makes sense because in my mind, I'm like, Tyr is this either fallen god or he's a god that's no longer around. And because of that, if that is actually Kratos and this whole time travel and the giants and him kind of turning over that, a new leaf and basically like, hey, why don't we all live in peace? I've done this God of War stuff and it has broken me. And I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to raise Loki or Atreus the way I was brought up. I've lost a family. I don't want that to happen to you. I don't want it to happen to me again. And so if that is like that cyclical roundabout a way of doing that, where he just doesn't know that he's Tyr yet, would be really interesting, and how they're going to kind of tell that story.
right.
I think that would be a fantastic way to end the series of him being a god of peace, which
Yeah,
would be just
for
like
sure.
a really good way to end it.
Yeah.
But what does that mean with that mural of him
Right.
dying?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Atreus is right there. So
Yep.
maybe Atreus doesn't kill him. Maybe it's just like that's like the end of his cycle, but there's still peace. And Atreus is gonna take over. I don't know, but that
Yeah.
totally I really like that theory and that prediction.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got to
Here's hoping.
die as Kratos to be reborn in the past as Tyr.
I don't know. Anything can happen.
My brain's hurting. Yeah. Tim's face. I wish I could think of
I will.
that.
Yeah, whatever they do, it's going to be good. If they make half the game of what this game is, the game is going to
sure.
be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Well, that's
Last
it.
prediction. Do you think it's
Oh.
actually going to come out in 2021? I think there's
No.
no way.
No, they haven't even talked about it. Like they said it was
Yeah.
going to be 2021 last summer, and unless they do like a surprise thing, like hey, we know it's coming out in 2021. We're not gonna announce it till September. Like hey, it's coming out this holiday.
It's out
Okay,
now.
but there's been no talk, no updates on anything, which is totally fine with me. Stop
Yeah.
saying things are going to come out in a year and then delay it, because that's what we're
Yeah.
seeing with 90% of the games.
Or drop hot trash.
Just be like, hey,
ruins
hey,
it.
we're working on this game.
Sorry,
it's gonna
Cyberpunk.
it's gonna come out when it's ready. We're not
Yep.
gonna do a
Yeah.
Cyberpunk thing. They ruined it for everyone. We're
They
gonna
did.
take our time, and we don't want our game to be pulled from the PlayStation store.
I think actually Cyberpunk sealed the deal that it would get delayed to beyond 2021, because now all the developers,
Everyone's
everybody
scared.
else is like, they're going to get gun shy. They're going to be like, I don't want to do that.
I'd be surprised if Horizon comes out this year,
Yeah.
because we have not seen anything except for that one trailer. And God of War, all we've seen is the Omega symbol. That's it.
Right.
Ragnarok's coming.
And
Which is fine.
Ragnarok.
Don't show me anything.
No, don't
That's
stop.
true.
Yeah, I agree.
I really would love it
Show us
if
stuff,
they just
and then 4
released it.
years later it comes out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Although
that's a
there
good,
might be PS5s by then.
there might be available PS5s. I sure hope so. I really want to get one someday. Yeah. So any other predictions? All hearts clear?
All hearts clear.
Fantastic. Well, that's it, guys. We have said all there is to say. So on to the next stage of Ragnarok, whatever year that comes out. All right. I'm just going to throw out the quick housekeeping as always. Rate and review us on the podcast app of your choice. Check us out on Discord, Twitter, Twitch, email. If you're old school like me, you can call us 929 GMG guys. Ask a question, share a comment, let your voice be heard, all those good things. Yeah. So Pat and Tim. Oh, and Kris, did you guys know we're on Patreon, and you can throw $1 in the tip jar if you want. $3, $5, $10. Get a personal message from us of thanks. Whatever you want to do, it would be greatly appreciated. And with that, I think that covers it. So you, our beloved joiners, friends, family, go get your good morning this week. And may God bless and guide your lives as you live, as you work, and as you game.